To approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Item 2, public comment. Anyone with any public comment? No? Anyone on the phone? All right. Review action regarding the approval of the March 31st, 2025 minutes.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we, 31st.
I would second the motion.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the March 31st, 2025 minutes. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Updates on various boards and commissions activities since the last meeting.
You forgot number 4.
Just the claims.
Oh, 4, I'm sorry. Review action regarding the approval of claims.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims.
I would second.
Okay, motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve claims. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Now, updates on various boards and commissions and activities since the last meeting.
I went to Shell Rock River, whatever that all means, in North Springs. Met at City Hall and get attendance from all over, because the Shell Rock went through. Got into, they're gonna keep testing the water up and down the streams. I think there's 6 places they were talking about a Shell Rock, and keep track of wherever they went. That was the extent of what I had extra.
Because I couldn't hear you. What did you, the
What's
Shell
that?
Rock River what?
Shell Rock River Watershed Management Coalition.
Shell Rock River, yeah, it's
Watershed Management.
SRRWMC, what, Shell Rock
Shell
River.
Rock River Watershed Management Coalition.
Do I have 2 R's in there?
Nope, it's Rock and River. Shell Rock River
Oh, okay.
Watershed Management Coalition. Yeah, that one.
Awesome.
Have you heard any more about that other one that they're trying to get going?
Winnebago?
Yeah,
Oh, they just talked.
or
Oh, was it Winnebago?
no,
You see?
what's the one that runs? The other one that comes from the west into Rockford.
The Winnebago.
That is the Winnebago?
Mhm. Yeah, they talked a little bit about that, not a lot. I think they're just trying to get that set up now
Yeah.
or something. It just barely touches Floyd County.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
connects
there's
to
a lot
the
of
Shell
talk
Rock.
about, especially the Shell Rock, putting that battery right next to the water, next to the Shell Rock. Pretty concerned.
Yeah.
So,
Anything else?
yeah, fine.
I think we all got a request to meet with the person who's replacing Tom Trahan with NextEra for project, the new senior project manager of development. Guadalupe Bandillo is her name. I met with her on Wednesday. She'd like to meet with the other 2 sometime, just introduce herself. And Tom is still with NextEra. He just took another different position like last November or something like that. He's a lead land planner at NextEra now. But anyway, if you are so inclined, she'd like to get her face out there to you.
Yeah, I got that email.
And then I Morgan and Jill McKean and I worked on the fiscal year 26 DCAT budget, and that's one of the boards that I serve on is the DCAT governance board. And just a heads up, I don't know if we've talked much about this, but DCAT and CPPC will be going to, Jill will be added the Together for Families region, which is Butler, Bremer, Grundy Center, and Franklin County. So she will have, that'll be July 1. So she will have 11 instead of 7 counties that she'll oversee for that. And that's due to DCAT funding being reduced and less contracts that she would have to manage. And so that'll be, if I don't think of it then, but that'll be a future agenda item for that, the DCAT and the CPPC contract amendments down the road. But
Do they decide on offices? Wasn't that a big?
that's not this group.
That's the other.
That's county social services. Yeah, so that'll be a change coming up here for July 1. But we got a budget, sent it to state, the state representative, and we're told we have to reduce what we plugged in a pay increase for her because she's taken on 4 additional counties, and the state kind of gave the directive that you got to reduce that wage. They won't pay the wage we proposed, so we got to reduce that. And then went to Brian Tiedemann's retirement party. I know you were there, Dennis. I don't know if you made his retirement party.
No.
That's all I have.
Okay. I had a department head meeting on Tuesday the 1st. And had a call with Todd Pritchard and Tim Whipple regarding Summit's plan. We may, or I think Tim Whipple sent Todd and I a draft ordinance to deal with a new
Road crossings.
I didn't bring it with me, but I can.
Right away.
Yeah. Although Summit doesn't have anywhere to go with their carbon, they're still out working, surveying and I saw something in the news over the weekend that maybe Trump's administration is gonna remove some of the credits. Are they 45 Qs, I think, are called for that, so we'll see what happens. Then I attended Randy Schmidt's open meeting law and ethics training on Thursday. It's always good to get refreshed with that. And I had a meeting with NRCS, the local office out here east of town, regarding some questions and issues with the Washington School Watershed Program. So we want some follow up with that. I'm going to try to meet with Todd today on that too. So, and that it is, yeah, well, I also met with C.H. Wilson, Rippentrop's business out east of town. They want to expand on the old White Farm location, part of it anyway, the eastern side of 13th Ave, I believe. Or East Street. I'm one of them, I forget. I drive them every day, but anyway. So there's gonna be some, that's part of my discussion with Todd is they want us to vacate a road east of town and so they can put a 100-car train on that. So we've got to talk about that, so.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I had, so. Item 6, public health. Your turn.
Okay, so what I understand, you just kind of want an update, is that what?
Hey, because since they did away with the liaison appointments,
Okay.
the intent was to have conservation and you come and talk.
Okay, so let's see, we'll start with the HHS realignment, which has been going on for quite a while.
No big updates with that. Behavioral health is in the process of doing their realignment right now. As far as the public health, they don't anticipate, what they're moving to is a shared responsibility model, it's called. So they'll have the Department of Health and Human Services, they'll have district lead entities, and then local providers. So the district lead entities will like hold all the contracts and be kind of like the financial people. And the local public health providers are gonna be boots on the ground providing the services. So the district lead entity, from what I understand, this is all in talk still, nothing concrete.
Do the leads all kind of fit in that same district plan for mental health? Or do they?
Not necessarily, per se, no. They anticipate that, like, your district leads will more than likely be a public health agency, one of the larger public health agencies. If I had to guess, we would, Blackhawk, Sarasota, Wayne, those counties would probably more than likely be district leads, and we'll be boots on the ground. From what I understand, we'll still be able to continue providing our home health and the services that we continue to offer, and hopefully expand with some of that, and provide more than what we do currently. So more to come on that. They're saying maybe 2027, possibly, that this will go into effect. So they just keep providing updates about quarterly on where they are with the progress. So let's see, our IT contract, we get our IT through Next Generation Technologies. I've been talking with Bernie. He thinks he can take over that and save the county some dollars, and by him providing the IT and going with Solutions. Is it Solutions? Yeah. Providing our IT. So I'm gonna end our contract with NGT effective June 30th, 2025. Bernie thinks it's gonna save us for the county. We don't know for sure. He's guessing between $7,000 and $10,000 maybe in IT costs. So that's great if that happens. But we won't know for sure until we go full fiscal year or a full year into it, obviously, when that's really gonna save us. So that's good. I think it'll all work out. I've been working with Bernie and NGT, getting the information we need, and Bernie's gonna get that to Solutions then to get that all rolling. So that's that. Let's see. We are going to Red Rockford, Marble Rock schools and Charles City schools. Red Rockford on April 30th, Charles City May 7th, to offer Red Rockford, Marble Rock. We're doing TDAP and Med A to the 7th graders. Gonna be 7th graders and gonna be 12th graders, so the juniors. There's some required immunizations. Those are the kiddos that we see generally don't have those immunizations because they don't go for those well-child visits. So if we can go to them and get them their TDAP, get them their Med A, and get them up to date, that's our goal. And then Charles City on May 7th, we're doing just the juniors, giving them their Med A to get them compliant with immunization law requirements.
Does that include like measles, or is that a whole separate?
It's all
Whole separate.
Yep.
And
They should have their 2 measles doses in early in kindergarten. But we do audit every chart every year to be sure that the kiddos are in compliance.
do we have does Iowa have any measles break?
No, so that was my next thing, is the measles. Iowa does not have any positive cases right now. But we do have testing kits. If we would, they would call and say, hey, we have an exposure, and someone in Floyd County is exposed, or someone may have measles, we do have testing kits ready to go to be able to go out and do that. If there's a measles case, I'll be asking for extra help.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of contacts, a lot of tracing, being in contact with these people for several days. So
Yeah. I see Texas has had its second death now.
Yeah,
Measles. Mennonite.
Yeah.
Second
What's that?
Second Mennonite death.
Yeah.
And a daycare facility has, I don't remember, it was 8 or 12 measles cases from one daycare.
Yeah.
The Mennonites did?
I'm gonna,
I don't know that that was Mennonites.
Oh.
The second death was a second Mennonite death in Texas.
Oh, okay.
unvaccinated. We do have a Mennonite population here, but they're pretty good about getting their vaccinations. So maybe a little behind schedule, but they still come in and get those vaccinations. Measles, mumps, rubella is one of them that they do get, so. But we're ready to go. If we would get a case, we're prepared. We have the supplies we need to do the testing. So, let's see. And when we go to the schools to do those immunizations, we're gonna offer them to any child regardless. We do have the ability to bill insurance now for vaccines, so we'll give them their shots regardless of their insurance status, so.
Yeah, good.
Let's see, so the other thing I have is general assistance. I was approached about doing the general assistance portion for the county. I don't know a whole lot about it. I do know some other public health agencies throughout the state do it. We're willing to try it, because I don't think it's a ton of work from what I understand.
No, that's what Renee had reported, that if there was a department that would take it over, that it doesn't take much time at all. We don't have a very large budget for general assistance. We have some assistance for rent, utilities, occasionally medications, if there's a indigent burial, that type of thing. But if that's the direction we go, and I know we've talked about other services like North Iowa Area Community Action Organization, or the Mitchell County, the CSS staff in Mitchell County have, their supervisor has reached out to see if any counties could use their service, their staff services, and they'd be an employee of one of it. But he's reached out to Howard. I don't remember, it's Chickasaw and Howard and Floyd, or I can't remember, but they have a supervisor who's reached out on that type of thing. But I think Gail's a good fit. I understand there's a couple of, or you're aware of some counties that have general assistance under the county?
I don't know if it's Cassuth or Hancock, one of those counties up that way. They do, their public health agency does do general assistance.
Gail said, Renee said that, whoever takes it over, that they can help get them trained on what to look for, the income thresholds and things like that. But the intent is everything would start July 1. However, with the county social services across the mental health regions across the state of Iowa, many employees are leaving because they have job opportunities. So we would want to nail this down, and if the two county social services people would leave us, we would, before June 30th, when they're cut off, we'd want to have that in place prior as well.
Which is fine. We get a lot of those phone calls anyways.
Yeah.
People looking for assistance.
Yeah.
So between myself and the secretaries, we get it. I think you want to keep it county. I don't think you want to an agency that's outside of the county.
Is that under human services, the general basic fund? Is that what you're talking about for the
General assistance is
Gen-
Department 38.
38?
Yep. And what we did when we did the budget, we used to have, I don't know if you remember when Carol Lodana was still employed with the county. We had a portion of her wages that used to come out of that budget, and then the rest of her services went through mental health. But when they moved here and Carol retired, we just did this in-kind difference. They got office space for no charge, and we provided, and they did our general assistance. So we provided the office space, they provided general assistance services. So that's
a large fund.
Yeah, and so what we did for the budget, I think the whole thing is like $29,000. Yeah, and I think what we did is when we were talking budgets early on here, we put 5,000 in there in case that was a number Renee gave us, if we were outsourcing to like North Iowa Community Action Organization, that she said it wouldn't cost much to have them do it, but that's lumped in one of those numbers. We didn't build new numbers because not sure which direction it would go. So that's, if Gail takes it over, I don't know how you would want to do that payroll part of it. If you just leave everything in public health, we're both general fund, or both departments are general fund, or if you wanted a percentage to come out of general assistance fund.
No, I want to keep it easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, I like that. And so if you don't mind, Gail, I'd like to kind of turn that into the wages part of this as well. So I was a little late getting information, or a little early this morning.
Yeah, that's early.
Getting information to Gail on what we talked about with our $24 level of people and our $25 level of those clerks' pay, and asked her if with her two staff, with Katie and
Marty.
if they would consider those $24 and $25 amounts that we had. They ended up putting in a 5% increase for Marty and Katie. So this, if they were to do that, it would bring Katie's wage, it would have 5% put her at $25 an hour. 25.50, excuse me, 25.50, and put Marty at 24.03. And so I just asked for that consideration of doing 24 for Marty and 25 for, I think that's where our conversation went last week. And that's if you take that difference, it's $1,210 with IPERS and FICA that we would ask to reduce the budget if they were going to keep that 24 or those higher 5% wages.
Marty was at 24.03, is that right?
With the 5%, yeah.
Increase, and then the other one was 25 even.
25.50.
25.50.
So that's why I was saying, would you do the 24 and 25? Gail's board is an autonomous board.
She can do it if she wants, right?
Yep. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did say that the only control that the board has is bottom line budget. So that's where that $1,210 comes from. Gail has reduced her budget some as well. And so what makes this to me a little harder to push out there is we're asking them to, if we go with them doing general assistance, we're asking those two people to take on additional work as well. So I'm kind of mixed on it myself on whether Gail should have to cut her, whether she should have to cut her budget to that $24 and $25 equivalent amount, or some combination thereof.
That's a 5% increase, right?
That
Those two
her,
numbers.
those two are the 5%.
With the 24.03 and the 25. And I've said this at my Board of Health meeting too. I don't know if you were still there or not, Dennis, or I told you. I don't feel that wage increases should come just because someone else is making more, I should get some more. I feel it's performance based. If you get additional duties, if you take additional classes, you have to be certified, whatever. In my mind, that's where wage increases come from, not just because so-and-so sitting in that office is making more. I feel like these girls are gonna have additional duties, so it's 3 cents and 50 cents more an hour, that big of a deal is 12, whatever it was.
These two gals work in your office, right, Gail?
Yep.
Well, probably no one understands better than you do what they do. What they probably deserve or should have. It's a little higher than some of the other increases we give. I know that's, not twice as much, but not far from it either.
Can I ask what, the general basis, but you're under public health, this bioterrorism, we have $1,000.
So that's a grant, we participate in, it's, bioterrorism is the old name, or I should probably change it to preparedness. And it's like 9 counties that participate in this grant in our region. There's several regions through the state, but we're 9 of us, 10 of us, whatever it is, participate in the grant in this region. Sarah Bordeaux holds the contract, and it's for doing preparedness type activities, tabletop exercises to prepare for an emergency. It can buy us some equipment. It bought like this owl TVs in here. And I work with Jason, bought some radios, had that speaker come, so different things like that, just to have the county be prepared for an emergency, like what's going on right now. So it's grant funded.
I'm gonna ask you on that then, that's making me think, Bernie had sent an email out that he would like to order the new phone system. And it seems like when we got the phone system that we have that, you wanted the cost of some of those phones when we got those in your budget? I can't remember, did we do that with you? Because of your billing, that you could? No.
Our cell phone.
Oh, just
our cell phone.
Okay.
to this grant.
So with this new phone system, there's not anything bioterrorism would cover, okay,
But it does cover the cost of our cell phones,
gotcha.
a portion of it, yeah.
What Bertie wants to improve is the landline phones, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it'll be a internet-based rather than landline service,
But not
except
cell,
for,
not cell.
correct.
Do we need to make a decision on this today, Gail, for you, or on these wages?
Necessarily for me, but I suppose you
No.
guys.
You're gonna have to make a decision
It's-
sooner.
It's discussion. I think what needs to be a decision at some point is general assistance. So wherever it goes, they can meet with Renee or Jamie on what that entails.
Okay.
And then I believe the appropriate thing to do then would be to appoint public health when you, because at the beginning of every year, you do appointments to, or you or what do I say, you verify those appointments that you have for different services. So I think at some point you would put Gail Argis in charge of general assistance, and then her staff, I mean, she delegates who does that service, but in her office, but so at some point, I think you need to take formal action. If it's Gail, or if you want to have anybody else come and talk, or just go with this. I'm comfortable just
I'd
going
like to
with
do it.
this.
If we're gonna do it, I'd rather do it sooner than later, so we have the resources that we have to train us and show us what needs to be done.
Yeah. But the wage part of it, I guess, is that $1,210. If they're taking on general assistance, do you want them to reduce their budget by $1,210?
At 1,210 is the increase for both of these gals, is that what the intent is?
Yes.
I mean, that's what,
That's the 24, difference between 24 and 2403, and the
25.
25 and 2550. It's not that it would be like a $2,300 difference if you did the difference between 2.75% and 2403 and 2550.
where are they, what's her salary now, Gail? 22?
20,
Marty is 2289. Let's see, Katie is 2429.
Well, Jamie would be less than $1 raise then, right? If my math is right.
Marty, you mean?
24 24.29 to 25.50.
That Katie is, the higher one, going to 25.50. So that's more than a
Oh, I had Jamie down, Katie,
dollar.
okay.
Katie, yeah.
And Marty goes from 22.89 to 24. Her increase is a little larger than Katie's.
Cents. Well, they're both the increase they propose is 5% on both of them.
5%.
Yeah. The 2.75, was 23.52 for Marty and 24.96 for Katie. So, that's the 2.75 number, but the 5% is the 24.03 and the 25.50. But look, it was the same increase, it's just, because we talked about this 24, up to $24 and up to $25 for, like the sheriff's secretaries, the auditor, treasurer, and recorder clerks. That's why I proposed the 24 and 25.
So we can't take any action on this today though, can we?
You don't take action on board. All I'm asking for is, do we want her to adjust her bottom line budget by $1,210?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're asking a lot of people to do.
Yep, that's what we're asking, but we are giving them general assistance
And we're
duties.
gonna-
So I didn't know if does that absorb the $1,200 or not?
Well,
There's additional duties.
I would think that Gail knows his employees better than we do, and if they're worth it and gonna do the additional work, I'm not opposed to it, I guess.
Oh, so you are or you're not asking her to reduce her budget by $1,200?
I'm agreeing to the increases of these two. 25.50 for Katie, I'm sorry, and to 24.03 for Marty.
And you have no say over their increases.
Yeah.
So,
So what we're just asking, I mean, blessing.
yeah, the bottom line dollar is all
I
we're
mean,
have control over. So,
and if you look at an $838,000 budget, then you have general assistance on, top of it. That's $1,200, right?
Yeah.
Right there, which, that's why I asked about the file.
I have a
That
suggestion.
one, there's a slush that I kinda, maybe,
That's a grant, so
yeah.
Here's a suggestion. What if we're looking, we went to her with this $1,200, $24 and $25 versus 24, 3 and 25. It's all general fund. What if we were to reduce the general assistance fund by $1,210?
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah.
And then you can do, if you think 25, it's your discretion.
Yeah. for
If
discretion.
you think 25.50 is appropriate or the 24.03. But if we just the general assistance budget is $29,000, something like that. But we put that 5,000 in there as a,
Well, Gail could do this without her blessing if she wanted to, right?
the bottom line budget is all you
Yeah.
have control over. So that's the $1,200 mark.
Mhm.
So that's the question. Do you want her to reduce $1,200 or we just take it out of general assistance?
I think giving her the general guy. We should go find $1,200 for them.
General assistance.
Yeah.
I think that's what we should do.
Absolutely. We can
Yeah.
easily reduce the 1210 on.
That could be an addition there somewhere. We're not talking a lot of money.
She can leave her budget as is.
Yeah.
We're in consensus of
I
that,
would
leaving
say
your
so.
budget the way it is. You decide if you want to do those wages.
right. And I haven't played with the numbers at all since I got this email this morning, so.
Yeah. And then,
We'd appreciate it,
Yeah, I'll look at it. I'll take a closer look.
and then potentially at the next meeting, could we have a future agenda item today for that appointment of general assistants effective whenever county social services is done with
Yeah.
their positions? So we'll reduce general assistance by $1,210. That could be that big line item that's on there.
Conco's color one.
It's not 5,000, we lumped it in with other stuff, so it's the, I think it's the largest line item in that budget.
Okay, with that deal. Okay.
Got it. Is that it? Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks.
Is Adam on the phone?
He's on.
Oh, he's on Zoom.
Yep.
Okay. Adam, are you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna turn the volume up a little bit, Adam.
I can do that
I would not.
All right, sir, you're at it. Your turn.
Okay. So we had our conservation board meeting last week, and so I guess the big things we have going on right now, we are trying to fill our office manager position. So I'm actually interviewing some people today, and that's why I didn't make it in person. So we had 26 applicants and
Wow.
7 interviews that'll be today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So we had some really good applicants and qualified individuals. So looking forward to get somebody in here and get that position and role filled and going again. I guess some of the things we talked about at our meeting is we talked about our wood duck nesting success. We currently have 67 wood duck boxes that we manage over the winter months. Just caring for them, maintenance, and then putting new bedding in them. And we had 54 successful out of the 67, so over 80% success, which is really good when you're talking about 54 wood duck hatches. You know, anywhere from typically 4 to 10 ducks per box times the 54s. It's really significant to have these wood duck structures out. This is their breeding grounds in Iowa, and we don't have the number of dead trees and areas that we used to have for these birds to reproduce. So I've set a goal of having 100 boxes out. You know, it's going to take a little while yet, but in the next few years. When I started in 2014, we had 18, 1-8, and now we have 67. So we're gaining, but we're going to take some initiative to get more out over the next couple of years to get to 100. We manage these in the winter time because of the freeze up of the wetlands, so we can get out to them and work on them. It's, you know, it's not just put them up and leave them. You got to go out, and when you check them, there's usually several that need repairs or something happened to them, and so there's always work to be done.
Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at putting these on private land, is that basically you'd have to, go ahead.
All of them are managed within our 33 conservation areas.
Oh, so you don't put any out on private property?
No. If an individual would like a wood duck box, the Isaac Walton League, we always point them that direction because they usually have extra ones that they'll give to private landowners or sell for a good price to landowners and get them involved in doing this type of project.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You gotta clean them out. I know ours, we had, I don't know if a squirrel got in there after the wood duck was in there last year or what happened. It was full of stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely competition in at times for these nesting sites. A couple other things I guess that we talked about were, obviously we're gearing up for field trip season. The next month and a half will be pretty crazy with Fossil and Prairie Park. Um, we did get out last week and did some prescribed burning um, at Doshonic Rec area and at the Fossil Prairie Park. We have a lot of burning to do this spring because we typically can get ahead of it a little bit in the fall. But in the fall, we were in a burn ban most of the fall burn season, so we didn't conduct any burns at that time. So we've got several days up to maybe a couple weeks of burning to do, but hopefully after today we can get back out and do a little bit more. It's kind of breezy out there. Um, Also, I guess we had our second annual Maple Syrup Fest on March 8th. It was well attended. Um, we'll be going into our third year this next year, and usually when we start a new event like this, it takes 3-4 years before we really can make all our guests accommodated and fill all the needs that people would need at an event like this. So we're getting better at it, but we look to improve. Um,
Adam, this is Dennis. Did you have some new syrup to use this year?
did we have new syrup?
Yeah, they're fresh crop, I guess.
Um, yes, we did. They gave us some of the first stuff that was pulled off of it, and we did get a report from Bruce at the end of last week that they ended with 108 gallons of syrup, and then they had a breakdown of all the jars, the three sizes, how many they had. So it was a lot better than the last 2 years, and there's going to be quite a bit for sale coming up here in the near future. So um, probably a lot of those same places.
Last year's or new?
The new stuff.
The new ones on?
Yeah.
All last year's are
No, yeah.
Um,
Interrupt you, Adam.
did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
you answered it.
Okay. On March 22nd, we held hunter education class, and we had 35 students, and that continues to be a hit. We actually are getting in Rockford, our RMR school, and Heidi's able to do a 2-week class with a bunch of those students. So she was in there for 2 weeks, and I actually filled in for her a little bit because she's bouncing around all the schools right now. But so 35 total this spring, and then we hold it again in the fall. So we have that class twice a year, and we kind of firmly believe that the in-class version is best. A lot of different people are now doing the online version where they can do the test and a bunch of things online, and they just got to show up for a couple hours at a field day. And I just think that it's better to get them students in the classroom and get their attention and teach them, rather than just looking at stuff on the computer. I guess we're gearing up to open the Fossil Prairie Center May 3rd, so we got a little bit of time, but it's going to sneak up on us. So that's kind of at the forefront of one of the things we're doing. We're kind of revamping some of our live animal exhibits and some different exhibits within the center. The campgrounds will open May 2nd, so we're starting to do a little bit with electrical hookups and opening probably the water lines this week or next week as we can. Then there's a lot of startup water samples, just a lot of ins and outs work that we got to do just to get the campgrounds going again. So those are just kind of some of the things we're working on, and I mean, I can answer any questions or anything you guys have.
Adam, I just, seems like about every time I go out in the country, I have a near miss with a pheasant. And I remember years ago, pheasants were, numbers were so low on pheasant count. How's that looking these days?
Yeah, so the reports that we're seeing of pheasant counts are stable, and that's up from, 4 or 5 years ago. These mild snowfalls are allowing for the birds to have access to the food. That was a big contributor of why we were losing pheasants was those heavy snowpack winters. We're barely able to do any cross country skiing the last few years because of lack of snow. So, I mean, we're seeing the pheasants go up because they're making it through a less snow covered winter.
Are you good with your volunteers for the Fossil Prairie Center?
Yeah, so we're always looking for more volunteers, and we actually have our volunteer training day set up for next Monday. For anybody who would want to come to that, they could contact us and we could get them signed up for that. There's going to be some holes to fill, so either new people or the people we currently have are going to have to take on some more. Otherwise, we'll find a way to cover it with staff. But obviously, the goal is to have volunteers do that and keep our staff out in the field working and doing the things they specialize in. But no, we're definitely looking for more.
Bob from the press is here. Maybe he can put something in the press on that.
Yeah. So the hours of the center being open will start out in May, and it'll just be on weekends. And then when we get into June, July, and August, those months it'll be open daily from 1 to 4. It's always from 1 to 4. And then when we get to September, October, then we go back to just the weekend schedule.
Thanks, Adam. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Keep up the good work.
Hey, thanks. You guys have a good day.
Yep.
Thanks, Adam.
Bye. Move on to item 8, discuss leasing tower space for the Rockford site. And that's why Travis is here, I think. You want to come on up, Travis?
You all got emailed the packet with the information from the tower company. In short, once we got that tower up and running, it was always the plan to see if we could market to basically get some revenue coming in off of that tower. There's two options. The county can do it. But in discussing that, there's a lot of things involved in that as far as who to market, how to market, what companies to get, what they can put on, how much they can put on, what levels, the licensing, the restrictions, the construction. I don't have any knowledge in that. I don't think anybody in the county does. The other option is the company that built the tower, Pyramid, they have an asset management team that is kind of like a subdivision of the tower company. And that's exactly what they do. They go out and they market and they do all that legwork and they do all that paperwork for us. And short on that, they manage currently over 4,500 towers nationwide. They have 675 towers in Iowa. They do the entire state of Michigan and all the law enforcement towers. So this is something they've been doing for a long time. So they know what they're doing. They will reach out to us and basically break down what our needs are for the county or kind of what we're looking for. There is no cost to the county at all for them to start this process and start reaching out and marketing that this tower is available for space and where it's at. There's no cost for that. Once they get a service provider, then they basically sit down and start doing all that legwork, figuring out what they need, what they want, and then they will come back to us to have kind of the final say of what the contract price is for that. They have a window or a ballpark of what the going market is for certain companies, certain locations. It's not, they make this much over here, they're gonna make the same over here because there's towers spread out all over the place. So it's the range of that tower, the height of that tower, how powerful that tower is. There's non-carriers, which are your lower end companies. They average about $600 to $1,500 a month. And your competitive companies, which are like your AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, they're the upper ones. they're anywhere from 19, 25, maybe even $3,000 a month. They anticipate that they would like to get at least 2 to 4 different tower companies on that tower if possible. And again, once they get that price and stuff like that, they reach out to us and say, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking that this company is gonna be able to provide. But the county has the final say in that.
So they take a percentage then?
Yes, when it's all said and done, they get 20% of that. So for example, let's say $3,000 a month. In our contract with the purchase of the land provider gets 25%. And then the tower company would get 20%. So out of that $3,000, hypothetically, the county would get 55% of that, which would be $1,650-ish, $1,700 a month. And that's just the ballpark. I think if we would get 2 to 4 companies on there, I think we're up around $5,000-6,000 a month. So it's by no means gold, but hey, we don't have to do anything. We can sit back and collect that money. And
So is there a limit to the number of antennas that can be put on that? Is it just 4 or 5? John?
that's something that they would know. Obviously, you're gonna have a structural analysis done depending on those, like the small market ones. I think those are just like a few antennas. You get into the major cell phone companies, you've seen those on top of the towers. There's 3 bars on each side. Well, basically one cell phone company can put up 2 antennas, but if they put 3 on each side, that's the directional. That's where they can pinpoint GPS and they can actually tell your cell phone down to within 5 feet of where you are. If it's just one antenna, then all we get is that your cell phone's hitting that tower, but we don't know where you're at. It's on that tower. So depending, like I said, depending on the size of the company, exactly what their needs are, a company's not gonna go on that tower if they have a tower a half a mile away. So that's what they're gonna market and do all that, and then they'll determine based on what that company's needs are, what they can put on that tower and what that tower can withstand. All that, those companies are responsible for all their own work. So they're responsible for their construction costs, putting in their buildings, doing all that stuff. There's nothing that the county has to do. We have our own building out there with all our motor equipment. So if, let's say, a cell phone company goes on that tower, they will bring in their own building and run their own lines to their own building and have their own generators, their own stuff. Nothing is tied into our system.
They probably have to come to the county for permits for that though.
Yeah, that's where this asset management team would do all the same thing that we've been doing over the last year. So this is gonna be a long process. Want to market, find somebody, and then go through all those requirements and stuff like that. I just wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. This is what I found out with our meeting the other day. If we want to go forward with this, which I think we probably do, we should, we just gotta get that ball rolling. The next step would be to have them either come in person or join on a conference call.
And
To share some of this information again, and then obviously board take action to basically allow them to start marketing, and then they can actually, we set it up that we can actually meet weekly, bi-weekly of giving reports of this is what we have, this is what we're looking at, here's an interested party, and all those decisions still come back to the county.
Can they assure us that it won't interfere with our 911 system that, you
Yep,
know?
it will not. I actually went to Des Moines here a couple weeks ago, and knowing what our antennas look like on our Charles City Tower and the Rockford Tower, when I drove down there, I checked all these towers and I saw multiple cell phone towers and I could see the antennas. So I'm like, okay, that's a state tower, that's an ISIC tower. And some of those had antennas all over and then microwaves all the way down those towers. Again, there's a difference between who owns that tower. It might have been a cell phone tower and they put ISICs on it, or it's a state tower and they're leasing the information, out. So, but I've seen towers with a lot of stuff on them, but they won't interfere with ours. Ours are actually at the top. Everybody else is gonna be down lower.
how high are cell towers usually compared to a tower like ours? I think
It all depends where you're at. Like I said, that's a 300-foot tower there. The Charles City Tower is a 200-foot tower. Elevation over there is 100 feet higher than Charles City,
Yeah.
so that antennas are
Yeah.
actually 200
it's
feet
a sweet spot.
taller. The KCHA tower, I think is, I don't know what that is. 700-800 feet
Which, where's that at?
The tower.
on the south side of Charles City.
Oh, south side.
But
Yeah,
I've
that
seen
one
towers,
north of
1,000-foot
Osage.
towers,
I
but
think that one north of Osage is 1,500 feet, but that's not a TV tower.
right, your TV and your radio towers, those are usually the tall skinny ones with the wires.
Yep,
It's the tripod ones that go up with all stuff. Those are your cell phone companies, internet providers and satellite stuff. And you could actually get a farmer or a co-op or something that wants to put a little antenna on that. Obviously, their prices would be a lot lower, but anything is anything. So.
Well, we've been asking ourselves, and we've been talking about it during budget process, and we've had public here for our hearings saying, what other revenues can you bring in? And this is one we've talked about all along with this project. So I think we don't want to put this off anymore. I think we want to go forward.
I don't think we want to take the responsibility and try to market it either.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think there's just too much
And
certifications and lingo and stuff in there. I don't think we have. I think 20% is fair enough for them to do all that work.
And Pyramid is the company that's done a lot of the design work for the tower and stuff we have, isn't it?
Right, they built the tower.
Yeah.
And they did all the work and stuff. They they're the partners with Motorola, kind of one of the leading companies for the state of Iowa.
I was gonna hand this to you. I believe I got this at the supervisors district meeting. One of the vendors was Murphy Network. And I'm just gonna give it to you. When I read it, I'm not reading specifically that they sell tower service, but like maintenance stuff on towers and stuff. But when I talked to the person, he said that they do the same kind of thing you're talking about here that Pyramid does. I don't know if that's another one you want to look at as a competitiveness, if there's.
Oh, I can certainly look into it.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a couple business cards in there, but I think we should move forward
Yeah.
with it. And none of us are capable of doing anything that.
Pyramid was easy to work with the construction, weren't they? I mean,
Yes, they
as
all.
far as the company goes.
Yes, they all were. Actually just sitting here waiting. I got 2 emails from them. They're out there today just shoring up a couple things, and they had their inspection last week. And like any inspection, there's a couple things that they just got to tweak and maybe tighten a bolt here or something like that. So they're out there today doing all that.
Well, that's good.
Should wrap that up here within the week or so, and then it's just onto the maintenance portion of everything. So.
That's good.
But I will reach out back to them, when I come back to work tomorrow. I'll reach out to them and let them know. I'll give that information and see what their availability is, I guess, and then that would be to put them on the agenda to come to some type of agreement or to sign something, get that ball rolling.
Yeah, I don't know if you talk to that company just to
And I'll
see if
reach out to
there's
them too.
anything there.
That was good.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Travis.
Meetings for times. Are not exactly the same this month.
Yeah, I know
Monday
you guys
meetings,
were
we have
mentioning
Tuesday meetings, we have
changing stuff.
an afternoon meeting.
Right, no, I'll check into all this.
Hey, I have another thing for you too. This was another one from one of the conferences that has jail healthcare services. It's like there's that whole issue with an inmate. Once they get in jail, when their insurance doesn't stop and when the county picks up or whatever, that's a company that covers that part. So if you want to hand that off to
know.
Thanks.
you.
All right, we'll move on to item 9 on the agenda. Review action regarding the $395.18 invoice from Taylor's County for the judicial review of the Iowa Utilities Commission permit. And that's 1/11. Total bill was $3,557, and our share is $395.18. Any discussion on that with anybody? I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I would make a motion that we approve the $395.18 invoice to Hooney for the judicial review of the IUC permit.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr. Any other discussion? All approved, say aye. Aye. Motion approved. Next one, item 10. On the agenda, review action regarding the $346,048.20 invoice from Motorola for the communication tower to be paid for with tower project bonds. This is the final payment to them then? No?
This is close to the end yet, is it?
Yeah, we ought to be close to the end here. Pay about 20-some thousand. Last one was a change one. Yeah, we do that one.
I don't know.
The bill must have been more detailed. It could give you what 346 was for, 346,000.
The contract was split to do
10%.
10% and then so another percent phases. So I'm gonna guess this is maybe 10% maybe? I'm not sure.
We're still below the $5 million though that the bond issue was for, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Travis and I talked last week and we are probably not going to get all of our money spent this year. I know he said they're working on the what they want for maintenance contract on there.
Did you mean this fiscal year, Roy, or?
This fiscal year, yeah.
Fiscal year, okay.
Yeah, so this, let's see,
Struggling to.
this is a 10% payment that's due, and there will still be $173,024.10 that'll be due sometime after this one. I'm not sure if it's after that's been up for a bit, but by contract, this is 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve payment to Motorola and to use the bond proceeds for the communication tower project to pay for it.
Second that motion.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve the $346,048.20 invoice from Motorola for the communication tower to be paid for with tower project bonds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
I think we're gonna have over 500,000 yet to spend to apply towards those the annual maintenance contracts or
Will we spend 5 million total, do you think, or?
we have to spend the
Have to
bond
spend it.
proceeds for, it doesn't necessarily have to be for tower itself, but when the board did the resolution for that, it is for emergency services. So, you know, if it's not used for maintenance contract, it could be for other radios, it could be for ambulance services. We left it so that if we needed it for ambulance or anything like that, we could use
Okay.
that as well, as long as it's emergency services.
Any other discussion on item 10? Agenda, get fast, so move on to item 11. A correction note retirement of a sheriff deputy.
There was conflicting dates in the different communications about Brian's retirement. So when we were getting him ready in the payroll system to put in that retirement, we clarified with the sheriff's department and with Brian as well. And his last day was the 4th instead of the 5th.
Note on that.
So you guys can just note it, but there's nothing to approve. I just needed it corrected in the minutes.
Yep. Good.
Item 12, discuss a closing of county buildings policy. So that probably pertains to winter weather, blizzards and storms. Some people can't make it to the office or to the building, and some can. Do we close it, or do we work with a partial staff? So we need to talk about that. What would be the right thing to do?
I can just tell you historically, we always want employees to be safe. And if, we have, fairly healthy vacation time. Years ago, we added our personal days to our vacation days. And so there's always, an employee should use that. Has been our policy. We've also allowed that they could, if they want to leave early because of bad weather, or we're closing for bad weather, that they can make up their hours during the week if the department head allows for that. Otherwise, it's always been the discretion of the chair of the Board of Supervisors to close the facility. I believe we've closed the facility 2 times in my 20 years. And the handbook is the policy. Basically, we don't have any other policy outside of some departments have their own policy, like public health has their policy so that their nurses and aides, they might do in town. If they live in town, and they might do Charles City services, but they wouldn't be sending someone, say, to Norris Springs. If the sheriff is saying no travel advised, they wouldn't send an aide or a nurse to Norris Springs on winter weather day.
So if we have a blizzard or whatever, right now it's up to the people. They want to come in and not take a personal day.
It is their discretion.
That's their discretion.
Yep.
And we've done that for how many years?
I think it's worked. Occasionally, a department will close their office. We've had that happen before because they don't have staff to come into work. So that's happened.
So do we do it by individual departments? I mean,
Well, this is one of the things where our county government's kind of screwed up because you have the authority to close the building.
Yeah.
But you don't have authority over conservation or public health.
Yeah.
Would there be any reason to close the building other than weather?
Flood. Well, the one time we closed was because of flooding.
That's weather.
Yeah.
Only twice in 20 years that you could.
Twice in 20 years. One was snow related and one was
Really?
flood.
Well.
And that wasn't that departments weren't working. It was just the building was closed.
Couldn't get to the building.
You could get to the building.
Most times.
Yeah.
So, is there
But
been a controversy here
in the
that we change, somebody wants to change that somewhat?
I don't know.
Or, I mean, why's it brought up? Like, I guess, just curious.
I don't know.
You have a comment, Adam?
I have an employee that we had to close the collection site.
What site?
The collection site for those blizzard
okay.
stays. And the employee basically did not get paid those days because she chose not to take vacation. As far as the courthouse goes, I mean, my main concern is public safety. With us being open, we are inviting the public to come here during those travel not advised times. We've had 2 blizzard warnings last month and a half. The second blizzard warning, we had people getting stuck in parking lot, get out of the parking lot. And the time that they left was about the worst time to travel out of the country. I would like to see some sort of policy that errs more on the side of safety for us and for our community, our citizens. I'd like to see us take a leadership stance in this, saying, if we've got a blizzard warning, we close down. We don't want anybody traveling. Except for the people that absolutely have to be out there. Our snow removal guys, our sheriff's departments, they've got to be out there. I want us to treat people on the roads so they can do their job easier. So I'd like to see us maybe take a little bit more of a leadership stance on this.
I think on either of those blizzard situations, the chair could have said, we're closing the county facility. And but I still would say, if an employee has work to do and they live in town and they want to work, the courthouse could be closed, but they could still work. But I think the policy is fine that the chair makes the call. I mean, sometimes they say blizzard coming and it doesn't happen. So I
That
wouldn't
is correct.
want to.
And I get weather updates. Educated on that because of what I do.
Get
So-
that on the email.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, I kind of agree with you. I mean, sometimes their calls are,
Oh, absolutely. And weather is can be unpredictable. I mean, I do want to make one comment to something that you said about having employees use vacation time or unpaid leave. I have a slight issue with that because now you're almost making the employee choose between their safety and their paycheck. So it's
Well, if
not,
we didn't have but I don't necessarily, we have a healthy plan and the employees are adults and they can be responsible for saying, oh, I should go home. A lot of times what happens is you're in the middle of a storm and you close the courthouse in the middle of the storm, and if you wait until 4:30, the weather might be clear, roads might be cleared up, and we're
You're
sending people
absolutely-
home in the middle of a
you're
storm.
absolutely right. We want to avoid doing that.
Yeah,
Yes. So I just,
Well, Adam, it's your choice whether to send the plows out or to call them in
Yes.
during bad weather, right?
correct. I take advice from my foreman on what the conditions are out in the country. If the conditions are unsafe, we pull the plows in.
absolutely.
Would the courthouse closing be hand in hand with that maybe, or,
I don't want them going at the same time. If I'm pulling the plows in, that's the last time I want the courthouse closing.
yeah,
I'd rather be proactive on that. If the forecast is for conditions like that, I want people either home before that or people not even coming at all.
well, there's only been 2 out of the last 20, you know, I mean, shoot, if you made the wrong call, people would forget it after a while. You'd have to be really up on the weather,
yeah,
you know? I mean,
yeah, the safety thing,
yeah, it's,
you'd hate to have someone get injured or harmed or whatever in any way, so.
doesn't necessarily mean they'll stay home anyway.
That's.
But again, there, an office, you know, Dennis could order the courthouse to be closed. But let's say, you know, we're changing to Tuesday board meetings. We have a blizzard on Monday. The auditor staff, all but one, the one that does claims lives in town. And you're still having a meeting on Tuesday. Those claims gotta be processed. So, Dennis could close the courthouse,
But they
but
can't get
the
in.
staff could still choose to work. That's why I think it's only fair that if staff chooses, that they aren't able to come to work and it's their best choice to not come to work, that they would, have to use their paid or unpaid time or make up the time in the week.
And that might work if it's on a Monday, but if it's on a Friday, then when you make up that time.
It's not like we just offer 2 weeks of vacation.
And I
So-
understand that, yes.
County employees can get into the building even if it's locked to the public, can't they? Don't they have to keep key
They have
fobs
their
or
key
whatever?
fobs, Yep.
So it would keep them out if the building was closed.
And you're still gonna have 24-hour services, sheriff's department, communications department, dispatch.
Dispatch.
And, you know, if, again, Gail's policy, the Board of Health is autonomous, they've set that policy. And if they have someone who needs nursing assistance or, you know, services they can still provide in town, they're still gonna be working potentially based on whatever they decide to do there.
So Ed, if you're looking for something from safety perspective more than anything, right?
Yes, safety is my number one concern.
And what we're doing now.
Should be all of our number one concern.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but what we're doing now is maybe a little weak in that area, you think, or?
Oh, possibly a little bit, yes, from what I've seen so far in the 2 blizzards we've had. I mean, this last blizzard did concern me. I mean, I was talking with Morgan about the weather conditions, letting other offices know what the weather conditions were, giving them the information best that I could. And it still concerned me that at 4:30, when everybody left, was probably about the worst time to be out traveling. Now, fortunately, it didn't get bad enough where I had to pull plows out at all. They were still running. But in that situation, 5-mile-an-hour wind difference, snow gusts come through, and I could have to do that. You could have sending people out in the middle of a blizzard and plows are down.
I mean, typically, this is more common to deal with in the wintertime than in the spring, summer, and
Yes.
fall, right?
Yes. With storms tending to be more on the severe side anymore, they're not getting less severe in my observation. It might become more of an issue going forward. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
I just hate for somebody to get injured.
Yeah, I think
Or worse.
Dennis could have said, let's close on those days. Would have maybe been the resolution at that time.
If we close it and they decide to come to work anyway, then it's on them, right? Employee.
The way you got it written, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how we could change that, I guess.
Well, if anything, just bring it up to the forefront and be aware of the procedure and policy that we have in place so that everyone knows what it is.
Do a better job of educating the people or informing them or whatever you want to call it, then, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you were aware at the time we closed the courthouse when Morgan and I called you that one day.
Yeah, I was actually in Rudd and my daughters, but,
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have been there probably, you know? So,
Which is what Boyd said, I'd be out anyway.
Yeah, I can see both sides of this. I mean, we like to err on the side of safety but some of this is just common sense, you know.
Unfortunately, unless you specifically tell people to stay home, work, don't come into work, they're going to come to work. Some of them are.
I don't know that I would say that. I like when I at the auditor's office, if Amanda, without the weather was bad, she didn't come to work.
I'm speaking for
Yeah.
myself, mainly. I mean, unless I'm told don't come into work, I'm probably gonna come into work.
I mean, I guess like to go with, you can make the decision. That's what you get paid the big bucks for, you know,
and then workers, it's up to them if they want to risk it. Right?
or whatever.
So the policy today reads, should circumstances such as inclement weather, insufficient facility accommodations, disaster, or other emergency type situations arise, there may be a need to close a county facility. Employees may be given the option to work if the department is able to accommodate the ability to do so. Work schedules may be adjusted to make up lost hours during the same week. For normal hours not worked during the week, employees will have the option to use vacation or unpaid time.
That just needs to be adjusted to say who actually makes the decision to close the facility.
Well, that's the thing. The courthouse, he has the option to close. Conservation is an autonomous board. Public health is an autonomous board. So
So what if,
Adam or Gail would make those decisions.
what if I decided to close the courthouse, but Adam decided to stay open, or Gail?
It's fine. You
And
don't
if
have
they're-
control over that.
Okay.
You could advise them if you thought it
But
was.
if one of their employees was injured or hurt, coming or going home from work in a bad storm, does it come back in the county then?
Oh, unless they're driving a county vehicle. And that comes back as a claim.
So is this really getting down, Adam, to the fact that, if you close the courthouse, they don't wanna take personal time, we just give them that time off? Is that what, that kind of looks, is that the underlying, thing here?
As I said, I've got one employee that I have had to close their facility twice. And both times that employee took unpaid time.
That's the gal out at this, sanitation.
Yeah. Which is
And have they
out in the-
exhausted all their vacation time?
I don't believe they had exhausted it, but that was their choice. That, to me, that bothers me a little bit. I'm just being honest.
That's out there right in the middle of the prairie.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
Yeah.
that is strictly,
Top of the hill.
Yeah, I mean, I can
That is-
understand that.
strictly customer based. I can't tell people not to travel and still have that side open. I can't consciously do that.
So, I wonder how many people use it.
In the department head meeting, I thought that this discussion was more geared towards not inviting the public to the courthouse so that yes, the discussion of employees was part of the topic, but I thought it was more heavily about not inviting constituents to the courthouse and encouraging them to drive in the weather. Just as
And
like,
that's the main part of it too, yes.
was like the main
Yeah,
part and then the
and that's-
secondary.
That's where he has that
Yes.
status to do
Yeah,
that.
so then,
Or
well, I
whoever.
understand that a good portion of it was also about employees, but I think that the majority of the conversation that was had was about not inviting the public in when the weather's bad and essentially encouraging them that it's okay to drive because the courthouse is still open.
So when's the last time the courthouse has been closed for bad weather, Gloria?
The,
You remember?
it was a snowstorm, horrible snowstorm, probably a dozen years ago or 15 years ago.
Pretty infrequent.
Yeah, and then the 2008 flood. And, people are making decisions in the middle of that snowstorm if they should run to the grocery store and get groceries. So I don't think closing the courthouse is necessarily going to be the only reason they're coming to town, especially when you can do most services online. So I don't know. I just think that there's not a one size fits all.
Can we do a different policy for the landfill site out there that leave it up to, it reports to you, right, Adam?
My understanding is I have the authority to close that
So is
site.
that,
You do, right, yeah.
But if you're allowing him to deviate from the handbook, you just need to approve a policy for him to be able to deviate, because he's our employee, our direct employee.
well,
So
let's
maybe
do
it's
that.
as,
Let's revise the handbook and allow you to close this site out there if you think it's necessary for her safety. She's
He
out
has
there
that
by
already.
herself.
I think I've got that authority, I believe.
Yeah, I think he does already.
He has
I
that.
don't think we have to change anything.
No.
do we, really?
not for
Okay.
that.
So,
What he's saying is he wants her to get paid, or as if she worked that day, is what you're saying.
That is a concern of mine.
Yep.
Yes.
I don't know that you change policy for one person.
Yeah, that'd be tough to do. I
Yeah.
would not recommend that.
Can we pay her though? Can we do that if
You're
she,
changing the policy
Let's
for one
change the
person.
policy.
they weren't changing it for one person?
Yeah.
I mean, I was able to get her a few extra hours the next couple days because I was on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I had her open a couple extra hours early, but
That's a good resolution.
it was, but was it, yeah, there wasn't very many people that came during those extra hours because it was short notice.
Well, I have a tendency to leave our policy the way it is and treat her, if she needs to go home and close it, let her do it and then make up the hours next week or two or whatever it takes.
The next week or
It has to
two,
be within the same week as Cardi,
Within
the
the
Fair
same
Labor
week.
Standards
it's
Act.
gotta be within the same week, so that kind of gets,
I guess a little different, but boy, you know, that's gonna be kind of your call, because I just can't imagine anybody taking trash out there in the blizzard.
I would.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
so,
It's,
you know, Adam, I think that's your call.
close the facility is, but she follows the same policies everybody else for how to use vacation time.
But,
And it's not that it's not on the books to use. And, you know, the county used to have vacation time and personal days. And then several years ago, it's like, why do we have these different things? They pay the same. Let's put the personal days in with the vacation days. And so personal days would have been an option that the employee could use something like that, but it's still the same thing. It's just called vacation.
So this next question probably for Dennis, the chair. How would you like support in making that decision whether or not to close the courthouse? How would you like to go about?
Closing the courthouse.
Yes.
I would welcome some other information or support, sure.
Like say maybe Morgan and I to discuss it first, give you a call and say, hey, we recommend this.
Well, the sheriff has suggested
Sheriff,
in the past to close as well. I don't think it would have to be limited to anybody. And Boyd or I could call them and say, hey, I think you need to close the courthouse.
I would welcome any support, sure.
you call me, I'll tell you what it's like out in the west, which is coming this way, you know?
Okay. Does that sound fair to everybody then?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's a no violation. No.
At least I'd have somebody else to blame it on if I made them be Morgan maybe
Nope,
or.
still your decision. Still your decision. Good try.
I can give you the data that we have, the information that we have from National Weather Service, our road reports, the guys that are out there plowing snow.
Well, it seems as though our weather patterns have changed. I remember growing up on a farm and we'd have drifts on gravel roads higher than the trucks and cars.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that for a long time. So.
No,
But-
no, the amount of snow has been less, but the winds sure have been wicked.
The winds are worse.
But I will say that what Dennis doesn't prohibit the assessor's office from, because they're an autonomous, they're a different board, from saying, we're closing our office. Or the auditor, treasurer, recorder, county attorney, they're elected, they could, I've closed the office for my staff before to do an afternoon Christmas getaway. So you don't have that.
One fits all.
That's one of those things I say the county government is somewhat screwed up because of the too many elected officials and things like that, autonomous boards that can do their own thing.
Difficult.
Something you can live with, right,
Yes.
Okay.
It's your decision, so.
Anything else on that item? It's not we've discussed it for a while, that's for sure. Move on to item 13, future agenda items. I think we need to have a discussion on DD3
Yeah, that's,
and also the Washington School Watershed District as well. Couple of things that I think anyway.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, general assistance. And,
excuse me, I didn't hear this, but
general assistance.
Oh.
And, I don't know I don't recall with Barney's email about the phone system. When he came to us the last time, did he give us the last cost of the phone system? So maybe he just needs, if he hasn't, then maybe we just need to have him come to a meeting, give us the last cost and listen. So he wants to get it ordered, was it 60 or 90 days that they have to lock in a price, I believe it might have been, and then it still wouldn't be paid until next year. But I can't remember how he left it with us, if we had a final thing or if there was some dependencies on something else. I just don't remember where he left that. But if he could bring the final contract that he's got, and then the board could approve that. So that's a large ticket item anyway. I don't think it hurts for the board to on that contract.
He was in here briefly, he didn't say anything about it this morning, did he? No telephone.
Maybe he just emailed you and I. Old ways. Old ways.
Yeah.
He does just have to come to a meeting with the total price.
no. This is the time to bring this up, but I feel in June, okay? I'm gonna be gone from the 3rd of June until the 12th. Well, that'll take in, if meetings go to Tuesdays, 2 meetings I would miss, be in Scotland.
Oh.
And, yeah, trying to find my family after 200 years.
Cool.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like Campbell's are like Smiths. But anyway, so if we want to maybe move a meeting to the Monday, the first Monday in June, and whatever, then I don't want to. I just feel I should bring that to the board.
Oh, thanks for the heads up. We'll work around this.
Yeah, figure out, something there. And,
Can Gloria and I join you and
Yeah, can we have a meeting in Scotland?
in Scotland, absolutely, we're gonna be at a castle.
Bob's probably gonna want to come too.
Bob is more than welcome to come,
I'll be the official photographer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you guys can usually get in, with your press stuff where I can't, but, yeah, my son-in-law has to, for Professor Notre Dame, he's got to have a over there.
Sure. Oh, we'll
Yeah, okay, I just thought I better bring it up and not drop that all on you.
And we can have a meeting with 2 people also. We've done that before.
Yeah, well, yeah, I knew you guys,
something important comes up, we can do that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
yeah, you guys get along with it.
Maybe we can give Lexi a break on claims and skip a week too. Have one meeting on Monday and then skip a week and have 2 weeks for claims.
Give Morgan a heads up.
And we're
And
gonna
that's a perfect time to give me a break, so I wouldn't mind it. We have a lot going on, the end of May and the beginning of June.
That day to get here before we know it too. I mean,
It's
pretty
coming
quick.
fast, I'll tell you what, yeah.
Okay. Anything
I also
else?
have for next week is the 5-year, year.
Oh,
5-year.
Adams. Adam's 5-year plans.
I missed that. What?
Adam has his state budget and 5-year plan that he has to have, DOT
Yeah,
budget and 5-year budget, 5-year plan for roads and bridges.
5-year plan.
5-year plan, yep. So he'll probably, provide a map that'll show where he wants bridge projects that you'll approve. And then the budget.
I was always curious, now that they closed down Old 18, is that the counties now?
I think so.
Because that's us. Or Springs, okay,
That is
so I
us.
kind of thought, but I noticed for, I think the last, 51,000 for 2 bridge designs and.
On the
some
claims?
inspections. Gee.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah, we can find time.
I know, I mean, I guess, talking to him, he said that he could train somebody to inspect bridges, but, we should work towards that end. I mean, talk about things that we can save.
Yeah.
That's big, but anyway, okay.
All right, item 14, the budget reviews, fiscal year 26.
Did you guys review any of the information that I sent you last week, with all the updates? I realize now that you don't have an updated levy rate, which I apologize for, but, I sent you updated expense sheets, revenue sheets, and fund balances based on all of the wage changes that you gave me last week, along with, reducing the share from 2 new cars to 1 new car, and, reducing the assistant county attorney to what it would cost to hire for the new hire. I double checked that library was at 2.75% increase and ABC was at $1,000 increase. The only thing there that I don't have a concrete answer on of what you guys asked for last week was county attorney collection funds and what to put in there. I have a call scheduled this afternoon with another county that has been doing it for a long time to be able to explain what portion of that money that comes in actually is supposed to go into general fund and what portion comes into the county attorney's collection fund, because it doesn't all automatically go into the collection fund. So then we can make sure that is completely squared away for our new agreement with Benton County.
So you're saying you're not sure if it should come into a special fund?
It goes into 2 funds. I just don't know.
Now
what
it
the
goes
ratio-
into
It's supposed to go into 2 funds.
Now it's only going into one.
It's only going into 1 fund and not the right fund.
Right.
This is the Saragordo problem.
The Saragordo problem, but then we need to be prepared for next year.
Benton
You're
County.
starting a new agreement with Benton County.
Yep,
So making sure that when the money comes in, it's going to the general fund and it's going to the county attorney collections fund.
why can't we create a special fund for that money to go into?
It kind of
Because you
is.
already have it.
You do have a
But why
special
do you
fund.
split it? I mean,
Iowa.
It's Iowa code.
oh, Iowa, okay, that
There's,
explains.
I don't know if you pulled down, but I pulled down the Iowa code and I pulled down the administrative code, and it has specific requirements. And
That's
one
what-
is a county attorney collections incentive fund, which we've had for several years.
Right,
Since before my time, probably even. So it's, but it is, fines that have to be paid and nobody paid them. So the general fund should get some of that money. But then it's just, we just don't know what that split,
yeah.
how that's,
Past
where to
history
go.
doesn't tell us a lot because,
No.
I mean, it's all over. the
Well, the past history, I mean,
Well, yeah,
before the Sarah,
place.
but there was a little bit of a balance before Sarah Gorda put that money in, sent those checks to us in fiscal year 23. There was I don't know, $500 or something
Oh,
like that
okay.
in that fund. But that was when the county attorney did collections way back. I might have even been when Todd worked for the county attorney's office, that they had that $500 that came in.
It's insignificant.
It's insignificant, yeah. But it's fund balance that's in the collection incentive fund. just,
Have we decided when we're gonna pay Saragordo County? Is it gonna be this fiscal year or the new fiscal year?
Based on the conversations that I've had with other counties and trying to figure out what the best route is, and also with speaking with our external auditor that have been here going through for fiscal year 24 to audit. I think the conclusion that I've come to is the best option is going to be do a budget amendment this year and pay them this year and just be done with it.
Okay,
That's probably just gonna be the simplest overall, because regardless, there's gonna be a budget amendment. And so just adding it in there and getting it taken care of, then it's dealt with, it's off the plate.
And are we sure, I mean, we've done the audit on this,
Yes.
so we're sure this is the right amounts, right?
I believe so. As far as
Okay,
I,
I mean, that would be the only fly in the ointment. I
The-
mean, otherwise I kind of agree with you to get it cleaned up and out of here, but I just want to make sure that, you know, I know we only get 10%, but,
but we
this,
owe $57,700 or
no,
something.
that was just through October.
yeah.
That spreadsheet that they had was only through October. So you have, and then even this, last month, another check went through, monthly checks have come through, and it's all been going to the same general fund, clerk of court, department. And so it's more than,
We're up to
that's why
60,000.
we put 60,000 as an estimate for what we think it is. We just don't know how to split 60,000. And that's what she's trying to figure out, is how to split 60,000.
The longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost us. We're almost to the end of the fiscal year.
Well, we're
it's
in
not really,
the,
that it's not
April is ended. I'm sure the clerk of court's gonna be sending a check for April's to the wrong, you know, to the treasurer's office with the wrong one, unless we can get this figured out before.
Just don't spend it, just, you know.
How can we make sure that this doesn't happen with Benton County?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why I have a call scheduled this afternoon
Yeah.
with other counties to figure out exactly what goes into the general fund and exactly what needs to
Yeah.
go into the county collections fund. So that when Benton County starts, that agreement starts, we know for sure that we're not having the same issue we've had with the Saragordo funds.
And I can tell you that the Bremer County auditor sent me what Benton County sends to them.
It's totally different.
It's clear as
Well,
can
it
be.
should have been, yeah,
And I agree.
yeah.
Oh,
It just-
I think this is a good move to move away from Saragordo
Yeah.
and start with Benton.
Well, it's gonna be better financially for us.
Well, that
We'll
too.
get
that
half
too.
of it instead of 10%, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not gonna, it's not. You said it's gonna cost more the longer this goes on. It's not really that it's gonna cost more. It's just going to be what we owe them for the contract that we have.
Yeah.
It's
So if
just
they
a
send
matter
us
of-
10 grand, don't spend 10 grand. Hold it back to pay them, get it done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when do you want us to make that amendment to the budget?
So we have other departments that, there have been other departments that have asked for amendment.
Okay.
Amendments have to be done by June 1st.
By June 1st, okay.
So once we can get a county budget done,
Okay.
then Morgan can start working on amendments.
That's about the time you're leaving town, though, isn't it?
Just
Well,
before,
June.
so I won't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. You know, I'll worry about it the whole week. if I
Yeah,
don't
there
do
you
that, right? Yeah,
Now amendment will be done by May
Yeah.
31st.
okay.
Are there any other changes, anything else? We're getting really tight on time. I know
Yes.
that
I know.
me being new makes that difficult.
Yep.
Because every week I learn something new that we need to figure out, but,
Well,
next week I will have everything entered into the Department of Management so that we can, officially propose our budget. And once I do that, we can't really change it, so you guys have to, have a decision made on Monday.
I think our numbers are fine except for Todd's and this $1,210 that we're changing now.
yeah,
I think our numbers are probably good and you know, disregard the fund balance report that you have because that does not have the correct levy rate for supplemental and rural services. Those have a higher fund balance than what's actual because that had the higher property tax
yeah.
dollar collection in
That's
it.
what I was getting at. So, I mean, right now, the bottom line, we're right there.
We're there. She's got it.
Yeah.
She's got it there. plugging into that sheet, or the Department of Management's multiple entries that she has to do on the Department of Management website.
It's not pretty. So, but with that
What'd you
being
say
said, I
it's
don't wanna
not
enter
what?
it twice. I said it's not pretty to enter it on the Department of Management site, so I don't wanna enter it twice is the point. So if you guys have any other updates you wanna make to the budget, I gotta know now.
I think get your number from Todd and do this $1,200. Everything else sounds like you got done. And I think the numbers should look good we should have 25% carryovers. You've reduced, sheriff to 6.5.
Yes.
So that does give rural services
So,
a better wiggle room. So I guess one decision we could discuss is, do you want to, we stripped away some of that money for road clearing. You want to give some of that back in road clearing? We stripped it down to, I think it was, yeah,
it
something
was
like that.
80 and went
It's like 85 and went to 70 something.
Yes, so are we at 75 maybe?
75,
I
I
think,
think it's, I thought it was 70, 50.
I think it was,
70,000, 50.
I think you put 75,000 in there and we just left it,
Oh, maybe that was the case.
I think.
Maybe 75,000. So
So it's not much, it's 75,000 still, but do you want her to play with that and
Yes.
put a little bit more in there?
if we can.
Or maybe not amend, or, so we can, when we get together Thursday, we can look at that too.
Thursday, Corey's gonna help me finish updating all of the budget stuff. When I send it out to you, can you please look it over before Monday's meeting and just send back a message at the very least that you've looked it over? So that there's another couple sets of eyes to make sure there's no fat fingers, no big numbers that should be small numbers.
And we're gonna get that, you're gonna give that to us Thursday? Yeah. Okay, so I got the weekend.
Yep. But if there's anything you see that needs changed, I need it before the Monday meeting.
Yeah, because it has to be sent to the newspapers by noon on Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, so you want to know before the
Yeah,
meeting?
Yes.
yes.
One thing
So
I
I'm
noticed,
giving
I got
you
your
kind of a
number, I
short
guess.
window. I'm giving you kind of a short window to look through it, but
Another thing for future agenda items is Bernie's salary. Recertifying his salary to 70,000 for this year. That's the one where certification page that
Right,
I put together had him at an 8% increase that was 68,172 or something like that. And that's what's in the budget. But we do a Gardner asked us to put everything in a spreadsheet so they have one place to look instead of flipping through multiple certification pages. So we did a spreadsheet and we had Bernie at a $70,000 request, but we reduced it. And I missed catching that in the spreadsheet. So the certification page had one, but the spreadsheet had 70,000.
and we reduced down to what number?
Well, what he asked for this year was his, whatever increase you're giving everybody else plus 2,000. So my conversation with him was, we've already given you the 2,000 this fiscal year.
Yeah,
Our options are, we could reduce his paychecks for the rest of the fiscal year to adjust for the $68,000 salary, or we could recertify to the 70,000 and give him give him the 2.75 next year. I think that's the cleaner way to do it, is to, since we're so far into the fiscal year, rather than reducing him by that couple $1,000s this fiscal year in the remainder pay periods, I think it'd probably be easier to do the 70,000. And he was fine with it. Because he said, well, I got the money already, so he said, well, I'm okay with it. And then he would only get the 2.75 next year.
sounds good to me. There's something that jumped out to me when I was going through Morgan's printouts. His K-9 fund went up 10 grand for some reason, or $10,000 more than last fiscal.
So their fund is purely donations.
yeah.
So if
I mean, I'm not
There's no
questioning it, but
general
it just seemed like a big increase.
Yeah.
for $10,000 for a dog. I know it's an important item.
That's all,
But it didn't come from tax.
all volunteer donation.
All donations.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And there may be, you know, like when they did, I don't think they need a new vehicle for the canine dog, but like when they did a new vehicle, the cage system didn't fit in the new vehicle that was in the old vehicle. So there may be some one-time expenses that
Yeah,
maybe.
hey, like I said, it's not, it just jumped out to me to seem to this kind of state for a, it's not a very big fund to begin with, you know, so. But it's, I'm not questioning, I'm just curious as to what it might be, but they could explain it. I'm sure Luke or Jeff could explain it. So. Okay,
But again, it's not tapping any, it's its own fund. It's not causing any taxpayer.
it's not a taxpayer deal, good. All right. Any other budget review items to discuss or?
Missing anything?
I can't think of anything. I think you've done a good job.
Okay. Move on to item 15, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Campbell,
No.
Carver, second by Campbell to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Motion passed. Sign this, Floyd.
Someone sign?